price tag's covering up. That's in poor taste. A price tag ought to be put somewhere else. See, I'm going to possibly laminate the front of these old books with really wide packing tape. Just takes a minute or two and it's protected for pretty well for a long time. And I want the price to be on there. I want people to know that I got these for $1. So I wish that they would put the price tag somewhere other than over the information. That's what I'm upset about. Now, A Surgeon's World by William A. Nolan, M.D. Memoirs by a Surgeon. The Making of a Surgeon, William A. Nolan, M.D. Same guy. That's why I bought these. If it was one or the other, I wouldn't have bought it. Now, if you want to know about a subject like socialized medicine, for example, you need to know the particulars going on in the industry or whatever you're studying. Like Ayn Rand wrote a book about an architect. Well, she knew that she had to go work in an architect's, she had to go know about architecture and architect offices and such. So she did. She went and worked in an architect's office for a couple of years, studying and learning about the profession and stuff, so she could write her book. So, if you want to know about medical stuff, get Memoirs by a Doctor and read up on them. Those will be easy breezy reads, 50 cents each, good deal. One Day in the Life of Ivan Denisovich by Alexander Solzhenitsyn. Got several copies, building those up because I think that's an easy read and good to read with the kids to give them an idea once they're doing modern history. The Orestes Plays of Aeschylus, yet another copy of Aeschylus' plays, or some of his plays. The Agamemnon, Libation Bearers, and Eumenides. The Story of Language by Mario Pei, Pi or Pi, or whatever. The noted linguist's world-famous account of mankind's most important invention. Now, I like the opening chapters here. Non-linguistic systems of communication is chapter 1. Non-linguistic, right, communicating without language. That's a whole chapter. Theories of language origin, chapter 2. The family relationship of language is chapter 3. The evolution of language. Dialects. The saga of place names. I don't know what that last one is about. But the opening chapters look really interesting. So, now the last, and I think the least, is a newly discovered classic by author of Three Musketeers, Alexander Dumas. Gorgeous, or Georges. It's got to be Georges. It's not gorgeous. So, he wrote some interesting novels, and for 50 cents, I thought we'll add that novel. Alexander Dumas published all of his stuff, I believe, in the 1700s. Oh, there we go. There's the latest batch of rescued books. Books are not going out of style, and if you think they are, please take your books to the local bookstore so that it will bring the price down so that I can buy more. Okay, my latest rescued books. Some of these have been sitting around for quite a while, so they aren't really recently rescued, but I haven't done videos on them yet. So, The Wind in the Willows by Kenneth Grahame for 50 cents. I want to have that around to read to school kids, and then for slightly older kids to possibly have them read it themselves. So I want multiple copies. Great Short Works of Henry James. I keep getting Henry James and Henry Adams mixed up, and I don't know the difference really. I know Henry James is not Henry Adams, that's all I know. Gibbon's Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire, obviously an abridged copy, but in paperback for 50 cents. Nice to have an abridged version. I have an unabridged folio, which is in slipcases and stuff, very nice, back in Utah, of course. Crime and Punishment by Fyodor Dostoevsky, 50 cents. I've got a couple of hardbacks of this, but I wanted this soft cover just because it's the exact binding of the first one that I ever read, the first time I read that. Henrik Ibsen by Peer Gynt by Henrik Ibsen, P-E-R-G-Y-N-T. This is a play in verse. Apparently the last play he wrote in verse before he started, before he abandoned poetry for prose. So, The Autobiography of Malcolm X. I think I might do one or two little outtakes from this because it's fascinating. 50 cents again, and the last 50-cent ones, of the 50-cent ones, 8 great tragedies from Aeschylus, Sophocles, Euripides, Shakespeare, Ibsen, Strindberg, Yeats, O'Neill. So 8 great tragedies, 50 cents, not bad. And I've got multiple copies of some of those, good times. Unweaving the Rainbow by Richard Dawkins. I thought this is a really interesting looking binding. It looks very academic or something. They're very non-commercial or something. And then I saw really light print here. It says advanced reading copy. I didn't notice that till later. Uncorrected proof, you know. The Soviet Achievement, History of European Civilization Library, General Editor Jeffrey Barclow. Oh, by J.P. Nettle, General Editor of the whole thing is Jeffrey Barclow. I read this, I have a copy of it in Utah, and I read it back in high school. Copyright 1967. And this is one of the ones with quite a lot of statistics and stuff. It's a pretty good book if you want the history of Soviet Russia. That's an interesting book to read. Okay, The Edwardians by Roy Hattersley. This is an advanced uncorrected proofs copy. Interesting. They've got a lot of them here in New York. Publishing capital of the world, so it would be. This is published 2005, so that's on a period of British history that I never shy to collect a book on and hopefully read someday. The Making of the West, Peoples and Cultures, A Concise History Since 1340. This is volume 2. The other one goes up to 1340. So, I know that this is going to be tripe. It's a textbook. It's going to have political correct nonsense in it. But it's good to have those general textbooks around. In Utah, I had a shelf just of history textbooks. And then there's the history sections of this and that and the other, but then history textbooks themselves on one shelf because they are so, they just take time period after time period and put them all together in one book. Now they only give a page or a paragraph sometimes to major events, but they are a starting place for looking into things like the Crusades, for example, and stuff. The Merchant Class of Medieval London by Sylvia L. Thrupp. I thought that'll be interesting. I don't know how exact or correct the information is, but this is from the years 1300 to 1500, not the Dark Ages, but the medieval era. Now I thought that the 1300s to 1500s was the Renaissance, but the favorite thing of academics is to fudge lines. So 1962 was the first paperback edition. 1948 was the first publication date. Pretty good book, possibly. 1948. The Corsican, A Diary of Napoleon's Life in His Own Words. Now, I read a little bit in the beginning here, and the editor says he has taken out about 1/3 of the original journal, so only about 2/3 are here. And he's rearranged some things because sometimes Napoleon would make notes about what happened 2 or 3 days after, and he's taken those out and put them under the day they happened. So that'll be interesting if I ever get to the point where I can study France in depth. Freedom's Ferment, Phases of American Social History from the Colonial Period to the Outbreak of the Civil War. Now, I thought by Alice Felt Tyler, I thought this looked pretty good, pretty interesting, and we'll see, it may be. But for some reason, copyright 1944. I'm afraid that it is like, you know, those things that are published nowadays. You get these, like Jared Diamond publishes this book that explains why civilizations fail, and it turns out to be a lesson for us about global warming. You know, it's very curiously timely. And this seems like one of those perishable bits of writing. I don't know. We'll see. 1944, though, so we'll see.